everyone. This is Team E, and we will be talking about the rising interest rates and semiconductor shortages effects on the auto sales in the US. Hi, I'm Adil.
Hi, I'm Gauri Mandal.
Hi, I'm Sastrika Atnayaka.
Hi, I'm Anupama Chaniseri.
So, before starting off, we'll talk a bit about the current market for the auto sales and what it looks like in the US. The US automotive industry is large and complex, and this market has grown a lot over the years. And this market alone has generated over $1.5 trillion of revenue as of 2022, which is considered massive. And it employs over 2 million people, including people in engineering, manufacturing, selling, including dealerships, and more. So it's a big deal for every country, but especially for the United States. 3% of the country's total GDP comes from this industry. But this market can be considered very competitive as it has very high stakes involved. Major manufacturers here in the US, like GM, Ford, Tesla, they have a strong hold over this market and they do dominate it in some ways. So recent trends since the electrification of cars and when Tesla entered the market, there has been a huge increase in the demand for electric cars, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, fully electrics. And now people are kind of straying away from gasoline cars and moving towards electrical and also big SUVs and trucks. So trucks, especially because they consider them safer, more roomy, more room for their family, and it makes them feel special in a way. So as a result, cheap cars are disappearing from the market. Uh, this is because they have a they have less profit per unit for automakers, and they don't make a lot of profit compared to SUVs. So even if companies sell more cheap cars, they won't have as much as profit as less SUVs in a way. So, what are the challenges faced by this market? So, this is what our case study analyzes mostly. There are two factors in play here. So, the first one is the shortage of semiconductors. So, since the pandemic hit, it disrupted global supply chains, which caused a shortage of semiconductors. And just to give a brief overview, these are small computer chips, electronic chips, which are used in cars in order to function. So, due to shortage of these, cars cannot leave the factory basically, and the production output has been reduced drastically, and that has caused the automakers to increase prices. And the second challenge is interest rates. Every year, the Federal Reserve Bank sets its loan interest rates according to the economic conditions of the country. And high interest rates can cause vehicles to be less affordable for consumers. So it decreases the demand further. So how have these two factors exactly affected demand and supply? That's how my colleagues will discuss about those points.
Continuing my end, 2019 before pandemic, the situation was fairly okay. There was a huge demand for the vehicles with the health economy and positive projections. End of the 2019, the projection data was revealed to the public and it helps us to identify and study the scenario further. Before studying the scenario, it would be better to consider about two main factors in microeconomics, such as quantity demand and quantity supply. In this figure, you can see the intersection of two curves, which we call as equilibrium. And in 2019, the equilibrium quantity was 17 millions and equilibrium price was $37,419. This predicted the industry growth for next years because the demand was growing. At the same time, the average interest rate was fairly okay with the percentage of 1.75. And it says like there was a possibility to afford big American cars. And not only in this period, the demand for electric vehicles also growing. Moving to next slide, begin with COVID-19 pandemic, the whole system got collapsed. Due to high usage of electric equipment in that period, and during the work from home concept, the shortage of semiconductors started. And This was badly resulted to the supply chain of automobile. But how the semiconductor shortage affected to supply chain of automobile? Because semiconductors are one of main raw materials in producing the control system of cars, such as engine control unit and advanced driving assistance system. With the impact of semiconductors shortage, quantity supply got gradually decreased. And achieving new equilibrium in this time, the suppliers had to increase their prices for automobile, and that ended with 42,000 in 2020.
As you can see, in 2020, as a result of increased prices of automobiles, the demand for vehicle decreased. So you can see a shift of demand curve to the left side, causing a new equilibrium where the equilibrium quantity is now 14.5 million and with the equilibrium price of $38,000. So as a solution for these kind of economic matters, the Federal Reserve attempted to boost economic growth through market interventions. Therefore, in 2020, there was a reduction in interest rates from 1.75% to 0.25, which makes it easier for people to finance vehicles. Moving to the next slide, as 2021 came about, there was still a shortage of semiconductors. So the supply curve moves further away to the left, setting a new equilibrium of E3. It is important to understand why the semiconductor industry is having continued this issue. As you know, the semiconductor market is considered as an oligopoly. So it is highly concentrated with a few large firms from Taiwan, China, South Korea. At the same time, the barriers to enter this market are very high and difficult for newcomers to join. Therefore, the high demand for this semiconductor has not been met by an increase in supply. Another important thing is why there is no government intervention in pricing at this point. This is because automotive industry works in a mixed economy where both government and private sectors provide goods and services. In the modern market of automobile industry, private companies own and operate their factories and sell vehicles. At the same time, the government regulates the prices and environment safety regulations. However, the pricing decision is still up to the automotive companies. Therefore, currently there is no price controls on the cost of the vehicles.
Moving on to the next slide, which shows the supply-demand graph 2021. As we look at the graph, we can notice that the demand curve has now moved to the right, giving a new equilibrium point, which is E4. The equilibrium price is now $45,743, and the quantity demanded is much higher, which is 19%. Now, let's look at the reason behind this change in demand. The foremost reason that we found is due to the low rate of interest. As the interest rates are now lower, buyers could purchase cars at a very low monthly installment. This is a reason why it attracted many potential buyers for buying cars. As now the rate of interest is all that matters and more than the price of a car. Another significant reason is the increase of sales of electric vehicles, that is 200% in the year 2020 to 21. And this reason is the electric vehicles are normally they are pollution free and they cause less threat to the environment. Also, it has very less mechanical parts which do less damage, so the automobile companies find it easier to manufacture it. Further, moving on to the next slide, the supply demand graph 2022, the supply data, where the demand shifts towards the left, as the reason is high rate of interest, which is much higher than the previous year. It moved from 0.25% to 4.75%. The Federal Reserve increased the rate of interest in order to fight inflation and avoid the risk of recession. Now, the quantity demanded decreased by 7.8%, giving a new equilibrium point, that is EF, whereas the price has not much changed, as now it is $46,382, just 1.4 5% increase only. Now, this change in interest rate not only hampered the automobile sales, but it also has a huge impact on the economy.
So, what recommendation can we offer to consumers and to automakers? So, according to our analysis, consumers' primary concern is rising interest rates. So, automakers can offer financial incentives like cashback offers, special rates, or discounts to make the vehicles more affordable to the consumers. And the automakers can also invest in EVs, electric vehicle sales are only growing in the coming years, and automakers must invest in cheap and high range electric vehicles so people can have an alternative. And automakers should also invest in domestic semiconductor manufacturing. So by doing this, they can ensure that there's a steady supply of semiconductors, and in the future, there can't be any issues like supply chain disruptions. And another point that will also help this is diversifying suppliers of semiconductors. It's usually a bad idea to rely on one supplier for a huge amount of product. So diversifying it can make it more easier to and mitigate the risk of shortage. And our recommendation to consumers is straight up delay purchasing the vehicles. Don't purchase vehicles now. Wait until the supply becomes more stable and prices return to normal. And another option which you can use is substitute goods. As car prices continue to rise, you can use things like public transport. It can be considered an inferior good, but it's convenient and it's not as flexible, but it can be cost-effective alternative to owning a car. And whatever reduces the number of vehicles on the road is always good for the environment. So that's the end of our analysis and end of our presentation. For any questions or theories, please feel free to comment below. Thank you.